Hello Team FD and welcome back to Sunday Vibes. We are in the Rookery on Clapham Common with our good friend over there, Darren. You might be able to see him in the background, maybe not. Anyway, Zach, how are you?
I'm alright, thank you, mate.
Yeah,
Not too bad.
I was just about to say, you're not Joe. Joe is away filming with Virgil van Dijk, so make sure you go and watch that when it goes live on Sky Sports. Hell of a name, interviewing A-grade talent, but our A-grade talent far outweighs that of Virgil van Dijk. How are you, Pat?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm actually alright.
Yeah?
Like I just said, might be moving again for the fourth time in 5 years. Just on the phone with an estate agent, which is always nice, isn't it? And what is other, things that are nice are questions from Team FD. Let's just dive straight into it. At Brian in Korea tweeted me, who is the most overshadowed player at each club? And I quite like that, but it is niche.
Overshadowed?
Yeah. So I think there's a few ways we can interpret this to open it up. And these are the ways I've come up with. So someone who isn't being properly utilised by their club, or failing that, someone we've underrated or is generally overlooked.
Okay.
Yeah, so essentially we'll be talking about players that maybe deserve more minutes, that we need to put a little bit more shine on, or reverse our opinion on. Anyway, this question does skew towards bigger clubs, but we're going to try and do every single Premier League club.
Whoa.
Right? Someone
Okay.
didn't look at the script, when I shared it with him this morning.
Would look at a script.
Anyway, let's go in league
We'll
position.
do Arsenal then.
So starting with Liverpool. Now, my suggestion for Liverpool was Curtis Jones. What do you boys think about that? And that was because, he's only started one Premier League game this term and found himself behind Harvey Elliott when Jurgen Klopp sort of set his new team out at the start of the season.
No, I think that's probably the best suggestion. I think Diego Jota's obviously getting minutes as well. Roberto Firmino's getting minutes. Maybe Konate could be an argument, having spent money on him in the summer. He's not necessarily their starting centre back. It's very much Joel Matip and Virgil van Dijk.
So Joe Gomez as well.
Yeah, and Joe Gomez fits into that category as well. But
logic,
I think all those three, Curtis Jones is a good argument. I guess the fans at home can maybe decide which one specifically. But as for Curtis Jones, I think he's just been a bit unfortunate, really. Like, that Liverpool midfield has been so great, and then that time when, as you said, Wijnaldum's left and there's a space available. Harvey Elliott's come back from a great loan where he's played loads of minutes in the Championship last year, and been brilliant and been fantastic when he's done it. And so he's not had that opportunity to maybe fill that space, which could have been if Harvey Elliott didn't do that. However, he is also now injured, and so maybe more opportunities will be coming up for him. But then he's also got to battle with Jordan Henderson, Naby Keita, Fabinho. That's the kind of the midfield three at the moment at times.
Thiago,
I completely forgot about him.
I mean, it does feel, Pat, like it's Henderson, Fabinho +1, right, at the moment. Obviously, that depends on Jordan Henderson's fitness. But Curtis Jones, took the ball by the horns last season when these guys were injured. I think 2 goal involvements in one Champions League start. I think he's got a goal to his name as well in just 87 minutes in the Premier League this season. Is he a bit unfortunate to be so far down the pecking order?
I'm not sure how far down the pecking order he is at Liverpool. I think the good thing about Liverpool is those midfielders tend to all get a shot at some stage of the season. What we don't tend to see from Klopp is that one of these guys just gets benched relentlessly forever. And I think he's shown quite a lot of faith in Jones' talent in the past. I think Jones has got unlucky here. Fundamentally, Elliott is a slightly better fit for that third midfield role, and also might just be a special player. Jones looks very good. Yeah. Elliott looks special. But he's much more of a link player between a midfield and attack than Jones is, who is more of a conventional passing midfielder. I still kind of think that if everyone's totally fit, Fabinho, Thiago, Elliott might be Klopp's first choice 3. But I think, Thiago was brought in as an older player to be a kind of passing hub of a side, to cover a bunch of different roles in there. And it was never assumed that he was going to be a long-term player in that position. Jordan Henderson is over 30 now as well. If I were Jones, I would look at those 2 guys who are probably the closest to my skill set in that team and think, there's a role for me here. I've just got to be a little bit patient, wait a couple of years, and I'll probably get it. But I agree that right now, he certainly hasn't done anything to merit being dropped. It's just about who's a slightly better fit at the moment. So I feel sorry for him in that regard. But I also feel sorry for Joel Matip. Joel Matip is has been great for them for a long time. But I also feel like we've quite often talked about, well, Joe Gomez looks like a really promising young centre-back. It's a real pity Liverpool are missing him. Van Dijk is injured. They really need him. He's their best defender. Oh, now they brought in Konate. Konate can help them take a step forward. And the one guy who we're never that excited about is Matip. Because, to be fair, he is the least exciting of those guys. He's the least talented of those guys, but he's incredibly reliable. He's great in the air. He's pretty good on the ball. Like, he's just been a solid contributor for them.
I think his passing range is actually underrated as well.
Yeah,
now you've raised that in the games that I've watched Liverpool this season. Like, he has the passing range of a midfielder, and I don't know if he played in midfield for Schalke at various points. I remember someone tweeting me saying that might have been a possibility, and that's why he looks so comfortable. But yeah, his ability to carry the ball, how comfortable he is in that high line as well, has made them relentless once more at sort of squeezing the opposition's space, hasn't it? I think he's been a key part. So yeah, I'm glad we put a bit of shine on Matip. So are we saying we kind of all agree on Joe Gomez there? Because that is a really diplomatic start from us.
Curtis Jones.
Curtis Jones.
Jones.
yeah. I think Curtis Jones is probably the answer, sure.
Okay, cool. Let's move on to City then. And I've put here, like last season, we probably could have made a case for Bernardo Silva, who was unfortunate to miss out a little bit. Maybe Gabriel Jesus. I think around 23 to 25 starts, so missed a sizable portion in terms of minutes. But this season, it's a little bit more difficult because those players have been reinvigorated.
But unreal.
So I thought what I'd ask you guys is, in light of Rio Ferdinand saying that Liverpool should go in for Raheem Sterling, one, do we think he's unlucky to kind of have been replaced by Jack Grealish already at this point? And two, like, where do you go if you're Raheem Sterling and you're still not getting the game time? Like, who should buy him, and where would he be good?
Christ, I mean, who should buy him is a massive question, because I don't necessarily think there are a lot of teams that need a winger or that have the money to buy Raheem Sterling.
Yeah,
realistically,
because you're thinking top six. Right?
Yeah, exactly, and they've all kind of spent a lot of money recently on those positions. If we're being quite honest, so they've got a lot of young talent. Because I think Raheem Sterling is 26 now, so he's still particularly young. Got a lot of time left to be playing in the Premier League or whatever elite competition. Again, I think he's just been unfortunate. Pep seems to kind of do this every season. There's one guy that kind of drops out of the squad that was amazing. Maybe 2 seasons before. I think 2 seasons before, Sterling was getting like 20 goals, whereas last year it was only 10, which isn't terrible. I think it was 10 goals and 7 assists, but obviously a drop in form. And then you've seen the likes of Bernardo Silva be brilliant this year, and still Raheem Sterling maybe bringing his club form, because he was brilliant for England during the Euros, but maybe his club form for City seems to have carried on. There's been a few times when when I've been watching City with Kieran, and Raheem Sterling may lose the ball, and he's like, oh, he's done it again. His form for City isn't as great, and then you get to a point
where it
where
seems to be a hangover from the Champions League final as well, right?
Exactly.
Like, people put a lot of emphasis on that
Precisely,
performance or lack of performance.
Yeah, and I think other people have to say as well, Reece James defended him really well in that final. Plus, when you spend £100 million on a player, you have to be playing them realistically, and that's what is happening with Jack Grealish. And Jack Grealish has had a very good start to his life at Manchester City. So I think Sterling kind of sits there and goes, well, I've not necessarily been given my opportunity to show this season that I should be starting there. And realistically, if there's a position, I don't think it's left wing that he's going to be getting with how Jack Grealish is playing. Maybe he has to look at trying to play that central role where they've got no out and out striker. Right wing kind of looks like it's between at times Jesus, and Ferran Torres is barely getting any minutes
as well as that inverted winger. Yeah.
So I think Sterling should really be focusing on trying to nail down that central position, because there isn't necessarily that one guy. And when I watched them against Chelsea, the front three was Jack Grealish, Jesus, and who's in the middle? Was it
KDB was in the midfield? Was it Phil Foden?
Phil Foden, yeah. And their pressing was ridiculous. and if he can come into a game like that and perform in the central areas like Phil Foden did, to be quite honest, then I think his future at Manchester City will be pretty good. Otherwise, I do think maybe thinking about where he could be playing next. The only issue is, like, he wants to continue winning trophies, right? And he wants to continue, try and battling for the Champions League. And realistically, he's at the best place possible to do that. I don't know where else he can go that isn't essentially a step down.
Yeah, and be as an important figure once more. What do you make of this then? Does Jack Grealish have to sort of... Is he only contending with Jack Grealish for a place in City side, or can Jack Grealish maybe play in midfield against some of the lesser opposition? Bernardo Silva's obviously been brought into that midfield three and provided a little bit more balance, but is that something you think we're going to see throughout the season, or are we just yet to see that kind of Pep-esque rotation, and that maybe not benefited Raheem yet.
Yeah, I don't really know. Like, I think that I kind of agree with Zach that if he wants to get in the side, it's probably going to be up front. I think there probably is a little bit of like wiggle room at the moment. Like, generally speaking, with City, we tend to find the first 10 to 15 weeks of the season, like Pep is working it out, and then it settles, and then they take off. As it is this season, they've already been playing very well. I don't know. Like, he's just a completely different profile to Grealish, right? Like, Grealish is chiefly a creator. He's a bit of a goal threat, but not a spectacular one. What he's been amazing at this season is driving into the box. Though, of course, he had the advantage of playing against 10 men, with Arsenal and things. But Sterling can create a bit. He can dribble a bit. But really what he is a goal-scoring winger. And so if you're going to play him in a front line, you kind of want to play him surrounded by creators. So I kind of feel that if he were to leave City, an interesting fit would be maybe PSG if Mbappe goes next year. That's the kind of role you want, where all the guys around him are going to create. He can interchange basically across the entire front line. Because, I don't know, like, it just seems that what Pep really wants at the moment is just like 5 attacking midfielders who are all constantly interchanging. And for whatever reason, he seems to think Ferran Torres is like better as playing when he wants someone to play more of a conventional centre forward role. He seems to prefer Torres to do it, even though I'm kind of yet to see it. Like, I don't really see what Torres is good at that Sterling isn't. I don't know. It's an interesting fit. Like, maybe you're right. Maybe Grealish can kind of slot into a more central role or come a bit deeper, like in the easier games. But then as Sterling, you're coming in for the easy games. Like, it doesn't. It's not particularly exciting.
It is still
not a great trade-off.
It is still very early in the season, right? Like, it's only been 6 Premier League games,
and it only takes an injury for
exactly.
it to,
But
to change.
It's because Raheem was his go-to guy, wasn't it? And it is interesting that we've not really spoke about him playing on that right-hand side, because he's played on the right-hand side very effectively for City in the past, and he's sort of evolved as a player to become more of a goal scorer. But when he was playing on the right wing, he was much more of a creator, wasn't he? And his goal and assist numbers sort of switched over when he went from the right to the left, and that is, for practical reasons, because he's not smashing the ball across goal. He's coming in and having a shot, and he was supremely effective at that, wasn't he? But his numbers, in terms of his goals and assists, have dropped year on year for the last 3 seasons. Do we feel like his powers are diminishing as a winger? Wingers traditionally experience their peaks a little bit higher, a little bit younger, than other footballers. Or do we think, if he went to a Liverpool or I don't know who else he's been linked with, Barcelona, that we would see him slap once more, and it's just a matter of game time?
Posh, I think we have to remember 20 goals for a winger is fairly impressive, and it's always unless you're Mohamed Salah and playing in that system where essentially, even though you're playing on the wing, you and Mane are the attacking threat all the time.
Yeah.
And so it was always probably going to drop off. I mean, dropping off to 10 is quite a significant drop off, and whether he can even get more than that this season remains to be seen. Obviously, with how many minutes he gets.
City have always known when to sell. I feel more so than other clubs.
I just don't know whether people have the I don't know whether, unless Mbappe leaves, which I think is actually probably a good shout, and whether then he would want to leave England. I mean, obviously there's been a big influx recently of English players wanting to apply their trade in other leagues. I don't really know whether there's another team that can buy him. Barcelona will not have the money at all. Real Madrid are focusing on Mbappe and Haaland.
And they've got Vinicius now, who seems to be taking this league,
Rodrigo
right?
as well, who's been pretty good. Then you go back to the Premier League and you say, okay, maybe Liverpool sell a Mane in the summer and think, let's bring back Raheem Sterling, which isn't the worst move. But City will want a lot of money for him. I'm not too sure how long his contract is at Man City, so probably.
And of all the teams that City won't want to sell to,
probably not give it to their direct rival. Right? Chelsea have wingers coming out their ears. Arsenal probably don't have the funds,
but they're the only one that would probably fit in positionally, right? Yes. You look at all the others and Spurs have a hole, but Spurs have a goal-scoring winger and a goal-scoring centre forward, and you would think that the next winger they get would be more of a creative type. Arsenal need a goal-scoring winger, but I think probably don't have the money. So it is one of those things where it's like this combination of role and money, everything needs to line up, and somebody City would sell to. It all needs to line up just right, and it's really hard to think who that would be, because the real kind of financial crash really in La Liga has basically removed that kind of out for how do you get rid of these players that you don't want to send to a rival. So it kind of now does feel like it's reduced to PSG, because I'm not quite sure who else would make sense? Like Italy, they don't have the money either.
Yeah, I mean, Inter Milan used to be kind of one of the go-to clubs for these sort of situations, didn't they? But they've had a fire sale and don't have the money to buy a Raheem Sterling either. So, yeah, a little bit unfortunate at the moment, I guess. I imagine Pep will still find a way to give him 15 Premier League starts.
I back him to probably make his way into the squad in some way, shape or form and be all right.
But they have, like, Pep does this every 3 to 4 years with the side. There is a sort of evolution that no one expects, and 2 or 3 years down the line, everyone's like, well, that was a good time to sell that player, actually. So I'm wondering, it's quite an interesting period of time with Raheem Sterling. I'm wondering if that's happening now.
The other point as well is, like, how long is Pep going to be at City for? Like, realistically, with the way, obviously, those comments about the fans things, and maybe I should just leave then or something like that. But it's feeling a bit in the moment. But I think his contract ends at the end of next season, if I'm correct. And so maybe City think, okay, we could sell Raheem Sterling now, but however, if Pep leaves, what keeping him might be the better idea for longevity.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. When you sell him, you are selling 15 to 20 goal involvements, aren't you, in all competitions quite easily. So yeah, it wouldn't be a decision taken lightly. But I think we can probably safely say that he's being underused, maybe not underrated, because he was Pep's golden boy at one point. But
at the moment, that's the only name. I mean, maybe Laporte, but Laporte's been playing recently, so last season he wasn't playing that much.
But it's weird that he's gone from, like, people generally agreeing that he was, like, up there with Van Dijk as one of the best defenders in the Prem to being like, oh, well, you know, maybe he'll get in the team if John Stones gets injured. Like, still think Laporte, I think Pep has done that more in defence than he's done it anywhere else. Every season he picks one of his centre-backs who was amazing the previous season to just bench for no reason. And then by the end of the year, everyone's just kind of like, maybe this is the cult of Pep, but by the end of the year, everyone's like, yeah, well, I mean, like, obviously you've got to give it, like, Laporte's been amazing, or Stones has been amazing, or whatever. And, like, everyone forgets about the guy that he benched. Like, I don't know.
And it is one of those things as well where it actually highlights how good the defensive system is at Manchester City when, like, the world-class centre-half often jumps, like, each season, right? Like, people were saying about John Stones towards the end of last season, like, actually, maybe Stones is sick. And we're like,
I mean, the one that definitely won't be changing is Diaz. Diaz is
Capitano now, isn't it?
I don't know about that, man.
Really?
I don't think Diaz is better now than Laporte was in that first full season at City.
I just think, but the fact he's already captain, and like it seems to, which baffles me. But
there seems to be like personal qualities are often highlighted with Diaz. They don't seem to be applied to other players, and that kind of. I'm not saying there's an element of favouritism there, but they clearly like his persona, right? Yeah. Let's move on to United then. I think Sterling's a good answer for that. Also good for the thumbnail. Excellent. Right, I put Edison Cavani down because I'm quite bored of talking about Donny van der Beek at United. And that is because, like, 13 goal involvements in 13 starts last season, and now, like, he's the bridesmaid again and won't be playing at number 9, and he looked so good there at various points when he was fit, admittedly, last season. What do we think, like, how do we think his season's going to pan out?
It's just he's just been unfortunate that they've signed Cristiano Ronaldo, to be quite honest, and obviously Ronaldo's banging. I mean, it was nice to see him kind of when he came on against Villarreal and he ran after that ball, which Ronaldo had left, and seems like he still cares and he's putting in the effort. But I think he will never
not be tenacious.
Oh no, exactly, exactly. He's always giving his all. And for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer to have Cavani on the bench is a ridiculous a man to bring on whenever you need him, and he's very good in those kind of last 15 minutes or so to bring on, especially obviously in the air. But yeah, I think it's just unfortunate that Ronaldo's there. Otherwise, they probably would be playing so much more, and maybe swapping a bit with Greenwood up top as well, and Martial also might be featuring more as well for United. But the fact they obviously went and brought in Cristiano Ronaldo, who is going to be starting as their striker every single game he possibly can, unless it's maybe a Carabao Cup game against a lower division, a team in the lower division, then yeah, maybe we'll see Greenwood back up top. But yeah, I think he's just unfortunate, to be quite honest.
And what I also want to say is had maybe United beat Young Boys of Bern, we might have seen an element of rotation against Villarreal, but now. It's like Frank Lampard last season. Now Ollie has splashed the cash. It doesn't feel like there's many meaningless games or less important games at United this season. It feels like they've got to win a competition. Do you think that's going to play against Cavani as well? Are we going to see him, maybe not rot on the bench, but underused, to go back to the question?
Maybe at the moment, because at the moment Solskjaer is under pressure, and so he basically has no choice but to just like really go all out. It was like Arteta playing a strong team in like the League Cup a few weeks ago because he was like, he's like,
and they put out the youngsters.
If I lose this game, I'm out on my arse and I'll have to go and coach Barcelona, which is what everyone does. If you've been to Everton, you're going to coach Barcelona. So I don't know, like maybe a little bit, but I think it really is just the Ronaldo thing. Like Ronaldo never wants to be rested. It doesn't matter. He loves playing teams because then he runs up the goal tally. Like he doesn't mind at all. He wants to play all the time. And to be fair, he might also be one of those guys who finds it easier to stay fit when they literally play every game rather than having breaks here and there. So I think that's a bit rough on Cavani. But I think they could also, if they really wanted, experiment with a diamond or something this season. Like I think they could do some different stuff. Like if they really wanted to. But I don't know. I don't necessarily feel that sorry for him because it's like he's pretty old now. Like it's okay.
But also like he wanted to go home last year and they were like, please stay. Like
that I do feel sorry for him.
Retaining him.
They are making it worth his while though. Like he's not like getting an IOU. Like they're paying him a lot of money. So I don't know. Yeah, I kind of feel like what makes me sadder, I guess, is that this has been Cavani's story pretty much his whole career since he left Napoli. Like he's never really had the respect.
It was Ibra at PSG, wasn't it?
Yeah, and then like he's been great like his whole career. He's been underrated his whole career. Then he goes to Man United and suddenly everyone's like, what a brilliant player. Because that's what always happens. It's like Giroud, like everyone was like Giroud shit. Giroud goes to Chelsea and they're like probably the most underrated player in Europe. And I was like, right, okay, is that how it works? But I don't know, like it doesn't bother me that much. It's not like a loss, in the way that like Van der Beek feels like a bit of a loss, or or the way that Wan-Bissaka I think is not praised enough for his qualities because he is not an attacking fullback in the way that say Luke Shaw is, or like there are these guys who get a bit overshadowed in that regard, or Martial who would probably be a starter and a very good player anywhere else. He just suffers a bit from being at United and from Rashford being a lot better than him. Like
the opportunity loss isn't massive. I agree with Edison Cavani.
Yeah.
Like 34, you've had a glittering career. Like you're still going to be an effective substitute. But yeah, it's just annoying for him that like Ronaldo's become really good at what Cavani has traditionally been played for. Right, being predatory in the box, being great in the air. Maybe not his tenacious work off the ball and stuff, but. Yeah, I mean, maybe we can put Cavani down for that. Chelsea, a little bit harder to answer. I've put in brackets here, maybe Chilwell. What do we think of the whole Chilwell-Alonso dynamic? Because Alonso's actually played the second most minutes this season. I've got down here, second for goals and assists, fourth for defensive contributions. That's only tackles and interceptions. None of this like ground duels. Is he underrated by Chelsea, or was Ben Chilwell overrated, or is it something in between? Take me to the grey area.
I don't think Alonso's underrated. I think everyone at times will say, like, Alonso on his day, he can be the best left wing back in the world. He really can. His attacking output for Chelsea when he's on his day is brilliant. When he's not, it's rough. It is very rough. And I think Alonso seems to do this every season. He'll have 2 months where he is brilliant and plays out of his skin, scoring left, right, and centre. And then after that, is very, very average. And if you need to rotate him to come in, I think it's good. I mean, Chelsea were willing to sell Alonso. The first bid for Lukaku was something like 90 million, 100 million plus Alonso, and they rejected it. So Chelsea were in the summer were willing to get rid of him, and the plan has always been Ben Chilwell. It's just that I think Ben suffered obviously from Ben, like he's my best mate. Ben. Yeah. Just
I was calling Sterling Raheem earlier as well. I was like, we're not friends with these guys, man.
But Chilwell's obviously suffered. Like his last, obviously previously to the Aston Villa game, his last appearance was the Champions League final, and was brilliant in it. And then obviously he suffered with the Euros and not playing, and then having that COVID outbreak where him and Mason Mount missed out on that game, which he might have actually started if that didn't happen. And so he's been unfortunate. And I think the other bit is Alonso's just started the season really well.
Do you think Chilwell suffers from being like just pretty good at everything? Whereas like now Tuchel's like exacted his system upon the squad a little bit more. Like they're going to dominate the ball, and they struggle breaking down sitting defenses. So they need someone who's a bit more probing, who's a bit more physical, who's a bit more of an attacking threat. And like it's almost like, Ben, we might come back to you when we're backs against the wall sort of stuff, which isn't very often, is it?
Well, to be honest, I probably think Ben will now be back in. I think it'll be him, Ben Chilwell, will now be back in from Southampton onwards, to be quite honest. I think one of
that's a big call. Have you got some inside info?
I don't, but who knows? I'll probably be quite wrong.
Quite wrong.
Because that's the thing as Tuchel as well. You just never know. Like, you really just don't know with who he's going to play. And I think he's unfortunate in that when he was bought, we were playing 4 at the back, and he was a left back, and he was brilliant at it. And then when Tuchel came in, the first thing he did, along with dropping Mason Mount, was also to bring Marcos Alonso back in to play left wing back, because obviously he understood the role. And so I think there's been a process for Chilwell to learn about what left wing back is, about going forward, and sometimes you being essentially the left winger isn't a bad thing. And so he's had to learn that. And I actually think towards the end of the season he was brilliant at it. He was fantastic in the Champions League final against City. Obviously he got the assist for the Kai Havertz goal. And then he's just not played. I think he obviously didn't play in the Euros. Then he had the break, which obviously every player needed. I think of like just about 2 weeks, if maybe a little bit longer. And by that point, Alonso was back. Chelsea were playing their pre-seasons game. Alonso was featuring in them. And so when the season started, he wasn't ready. He wasn't match fit. Wasn't ready, and he hadn't even had the fitness of playing in the Euros like Mason Mount would have. He essentially, his fitness was not there. And so I think he's just been a bit unfortunate with how it's been. And whilst he has got ready for match fitness by playing maybe in-house games and training, Alonso's been doing week in, week out, been brilliant. However,
and Rudiger's also been brilliant next to him as well. And I suppose there's like less need for a conservative left back when like Rudiger's doing it all at the minute. Yeah, for sure. Rudiger
continues to be fantastic in this like left centre back in the 3 at the back formation. But yeah, I think it's very much just been a bit unfortunate, and that Alonso's been really, really good. But the future for Chelsea's left wing back position or left back, whatever happens, is Ben Chilwell. It's just a matter of time, I think, until he's back in there.
Do you agree? I think Ben Chilwell is solid but quite replaceable. I don't know. For me, I don't know if he's the future of Chelsea. I think he's a good player. But has this highlighted maybe his lack of, I don't know, tactical versatility, let's say, or do you think it is, like Zach says, just a case of he will evolve into the role, when he's good and ready, still young? Let's not, hold our horses a little bit.
Yeah, probably the latter, because I think that actually tactically he's more versatile than Alonso. Alonso has more limits to his game, right? Alonso plays one way, whereas Chilwell could play in a back 3, could play in a back 4.
Yeah, I suppose tactically versatile in the way that Tuchel's playing at the moment, right?
Yeah, he doesn't fit that role quite as well. I've always thought Chilwell is a little bit overrated. I think he was substantially overrated at Leicester. And I thought that Chelsea overpaid for him. But I think the reason they did that is because he's like a young, homegrown player who is yet to hit his peak and who they thought could be a part of this team for a long time. And I haven't seen anything now they've paid the money to disprove that. I think he's going to be a very good contributor for them in the long term. He's surprisingly good in the air. He's a really good dribbler. He's an okay defender, certainly a better defender, as fullbacks go, but certainly a better defender than Alonso, and good enough. So, I don't know. I think that it will be fine with Chilwell. And I think that what'll be interesting is if Tuchel is there for 3 or 4 years, how we'll see this team evolve, because a bunch of guys are going to age out there. Like Conte's going to age out, Jorginho's going to age out, Azpilicueta's probably going to age out, and as that happens,
Thiago Silva still be fine, evergreen. Yeah.
So as that happens, then it might be that the system kind of changes, because Tuchel isn't wedded to a system in the way other guys are. Right now, I think he just looks at the talent he has. He's like, this is the most effective way to put it together, and that comes at the cost of people like Chilwell, Ziyech, to some extent Kovacic, certainly Werner. These are, and well, it's not really a problem with system, but Christensen loses out because of the defenders he's up against. I think that as time goes on, you may well see some of those guys coming back in if things switch around. So I wouldn't worry too much about Ben Chilwell. There aren't any flaws in his game to suggest he can't be a starting left back of Chelsea quality, I think.
The only worry that I did have was that I think he's personally taken it very hard. There's been reports that he's gone into he's had he was quite sad,
crisis meetings.
Sad
about
it.
The old Danny Rose situation.
But he's also
why am I not playing?
Yeah. But he went into, I think there's reports that he's had meetings with, or had a meeting with Tuchel where he went into his office and was essentially like, what do I need to do more? And Tuchel apparently was quite honest, was like, be honest. It was Alonso's been brilliant and you're not quite match fit, because that's one thing that Tuchel is very careful about. He talks about this red zone all the time and about how players are if you've not trained hard enough, or you've not been in training long enough, or you're not match ready or match fit, he won't risk you. Like if you're in this red zone or whatever.
So this is the periodization stuff. So it's just
Exactly.
like, okay, you're like, basically your fitness is in a constant kind of circular.
Because whereas say other managers might be like, okay, you're the better player, you're going to play, don't worry. He's very much like, if you're like there's been times where, for instance, N'Golo Kante hasn't played because he's not injured, but this game might injure him.
Which is smart, because I suppose in a way, like from a like a behavioural perspective, like that's easier for players to digest, isn't it? Rather than like, I'm not going to play you because this guy's in form. It's like, actually, here's something scientific to back up my opinion. But I think Ben Chilwell, I mean, you can understand 6 games into the season why he's frustrated. That's not an inconsequential amount of games, is it? But I think maybe a good answer for this as well. Shout out to Christensen as well. Like, I didn't see him improving in this way.
That's signed a new contract.
Yeah.
But again, Christensen always been great in a back 3.
Always,
Never been great
always.
in a back 4. Great in a back 3 under Conte as well.
Yeah,
but when you've got a back 4, horrible.
Yeah.
So like, I think that there's definitely a role for him here.
I remember loving the complexion of Conte's back 3 as well, where like David Luiz was the aggressor. Like
Rudiger was in that as well, wasn't he?
So was Gary Cahill. Brilliant. So I think maybe, like Pat said, if they do change system, we might see someone that's in form miss out, and that's the way it rolls at the top. Let's move on to Everton then. I've got brackets no. I don't think anyone at Everton answers this question, and I've put that, I've rationalised it that way because I think Rafa is getting the best out of quite a limited squad at the moment, so it'd be hard to argue otherwise. What do we think?
Yeah,
I'm trying to think who's playing.
But no one, I don't think there's anyone there who deserves more shine than they get. Like, I think everyone gets roughly the right amount of shine. I mean, weirdly, some people seem to really hate Richarlison. I think Richarlison's great. But I think in the football world, he's rated quite highly. He obviously starts for Everton. He starts for Brazil a lot of the time. So like, clearly, I think that's
because
a
he plays
thing.
as number 9, don't you think? And he doesn't like score enough to warrant playing in that position when really he's a second striker.
And he sort of, I don't know what it is about him, but
he
something
want to
about
move
him
as
is
well?
annoying.
Yeah.
Like, something about him, he just seems sort of like a tit. Like, he gets up all the time, and he's got a kind of surly teenager vibe to him, you know, when he's always like, oh.
He looks like he's
told him to
just
tidy
been
his room.
dragged out of bed.
Yeah, or you're just
at
like,
all points.
tidy your room, Rich. And he's like, oh, like that's the face he pulls all the time. So that's
with his little chicken dance as well. I've put that. I mean, Alan will definitely be hoping to make more than 23 starts. That's all he put up last season. Obviously, had various fitness issues. I think he's been good for them at the start of the season. Decore's obviously equalled his goal contributions from last season already this season. So there's a couple guys that will improve, I think, this season.
Is Iwobi playing? Iwobi playing much? But he probably doesn't deserve to.
Oh, I like Iwobi, but yeah, he doesn't fit that system.
Damari Gray's been brilliant, and then he's playing on the other wing. At times with Andros. Andros Townsend.
Do you know what? Like Iwobi and Andre Gomez, he's used them really effectively as substitutes, and like used them to change the game up mid-game. So I think their numbers will probably be okay come the end of the season. But
I love Rafa,
no one there enough to say like they're underrated at the moment. Okay, I agree. Brighton have also put brackets no. I put no for a lot of the subsequent teams, by the way. So please argue against me. Although you know, Maupay, Duffy, Maupay's it's constantly been levelled at Maupay that he's not a Premier League striker. He's obviously underperformed against XG 2 years in a row. But he's overperforming now.
If we're talking about maybe an underrated player at Brighton, then yeah, probably. I think I've been at times saying that he's not good enough, especially after last season.
But probably Webster as well.
Potter has stuck with him though, hasn't he? Because like part of the argument was that I put up here. How did we?
Because I'm just thinking of players that aren't playing, but however, it's not quite that all the time.
Like someone that's not being properly utilised by their club. But Potter's kind of stuck by these guys anyway. I mean, maybe Duffy is a good answer for this because he started all 6 games. Like he complements the other centre halves really well. Like beast in the air, had issues at Celtic. I think had various personal issues off the pitch that don't want to speculate on. But he's come back and he's looked good next to Webster and Dunk. They seem to
no one talks about Webster though. Like, but now at least maybe it's just because we've talked about it. But I've heard a bit about Duffy this season. I still feel like no one talks about Webster, and I really like Webster.
Yeah, he's class.
I also like Solly March. Like I actually think loads of these. I think Trossard's great. Like Welbeck is good for them. Lallana's good for them. Like, and I agree about Maupay. Like last season, it was just like, oh, you know what they need? They need a clinical striker because those are a thing that exists when they aren't really. Like he's like a perfectly good striker for them. Like I actually think there are loads and loads of players there who are really underrated.
You know who gets too much game time? Connolly.
I don't think Connolly's a Premier League striker, is it?
No.
I hate, like, do you not think if you were a defender you would hate playing against Connolly?
I'd love it if I was a goalkeeper, though.
Yeah.
I think he's been slowly phased out of the side, and he can be an effective substitute, can't he?
Yeah.
How old is he, though? He's still like
21.
21.
Yeah, like very young, very young.
I could see. I just don't think he's ever going to be clinical at Premier League level. And we hate being dismissive on this channel, but like I've seen enough from him to suggest that.
But then you think those troublemaking players still have a value. I'd say earlier in his career, someone like Michail Antonio would have been in that category. You're like, Antonio, like, is he a great creator? No. Is he a great dribbler? No. Is he a goal scorer? At that point, no. But like everyone hates playing against him.
Very true. But
maybe he needs loads to championship or something.
Potentially. I think Morpé's also a bothersome striker as well. He also fits in that category.
He's such a dickhead.
But yeah, exactly. But he's a much better finisher than Connolly.
Yeah, he's just more talented all round.
So they kind of have that profile of striker already. But Webster, I mean, why did you want to put more shine on him? Like his ball progression numbers are unbelievable, aren't they? And I think they do need that. Some of the central midfield like play when I was watching them against Crystal Palace, as much as I like Lallana, as much as I like Gross, like without Basuma, they do miss someone that can just skip a line.
Yes.
And like but Webster just does that sometimes when he takes the initiative.
Yeah, I just think that they had an excellent defence last season. Like they've had an excellent defence basically under Potter, and Webster has always been there, just like quietly doing his job. Like people would talk about Ben White because he was young, and there was a lot of like kind of chatter around him in the transfer market. People kind of talked about Dunk because Dunk has been like such an obvious leader for them. And now Duffy, I guess, because it's like a bit of a kind of
a nice narrative,
a fairy tale. Yeah. And I'm not saying those guys don't deserve it, because I think they've all got lots of qualities to recommend them. But Webster, when I see him, like, I swear he always plays at least 2 or 3 balls in a game that I think, wow, like, that's really impressive stuff. He's always in position. He's just like one of those guys who, like, I think about guys like Raul Albiol, who for years I was just like, why is this guy like playing for Real Madrid? Like, he's not a big name or whatever. And then you watch him and you're like, it's because he doesn't do anything wrong. He's just always like doing the right thing, doing the sensible stuff, not taking stupid risks, doing everything his manager asks of him. Like, that is kind of the guy that Webster is.
I love Albiol. He has unreal distribution, by the way. Like, I remember writing a script like 18 months ago, and it was like, most completed long balls in Serie A, 9 goalkeepers in the top 10, and Raul Albiol like completing like 11 for Napoli.
Yeah,
it was class. West Ham, I mean, it's just to end Brighton, the common theme there is Graham Potter making good players better, right? So fair play. West Ham have also gone no, but I mean, they do have a small squad, so I don't feel like anyone's going to be underused. Although, like, big trouble if anything happens to Antonio. We've already discussed that. But what do you think about like the improvement of Ben Rama and Fornals? Because you wrote and explained on West Ham, right? So
yeah, I think Fornals has been like fun again, kind of being given more of a free 10 role, whereas he was playing in much more of a hard-working kind of defensive winger role last season a bit more. It's nice that those guys have come in, but I think it's just a matter of phasing them in. I think Moyes is one of those managers who says, these are my guys, and if you're going to get in here, I need to know you for a while before I put the trust in you. And so I think Ben Rama has been really slowly phased in. And Vlasic has played more than I expected, but it's a slightly similar thing.
Ben Rama was unfortunate as well with Jesse Lingard's form last year.
That's true.
Jesse Lingard came in and was just unbelievable. And Ben Rama, I guess, if a player's performing like that, scoring or assisting basically nearly every game, you can't really knock it at times. But no, I think Ben Rama's been brilliant.
I think he's got 5-6 goal contributions in the league already.
Oh, mate, he's doing well for my draft, I'll tell you that. Absolutely the only reason I'm still in it.
And those Algerian links. So, yeah,
Indeed,
class.
Indeed.
Right, let's move on to Villa then. I mean, again, like a little bit like West Ham, it feels like Dean Smith is getting the most out of the talent. The better players are getting all the minutes, and justifiably so. It has been interesting, though, with them switching up to a 3-4-3 this season. Like, Matty Cash is becoming a bit more prominent as an attacking force, although I had a look at his key passes. They are lower than I thought, so it's kind of like, the eye test can be deceiving also. But Douglas Luiz is playing great, looks like a good distributor. Like, what do we think to Aston Villa? Is there anyone there that I'm missing?
I mean, I my predictions that I put Aston Villa above Arsenal for this season, and because I was really impressed. I was really impressed with their summer business, and I kind of said, especially at the beginning of their season when they hadn't really won a game, that they have so many new players as well that it takes time to kind of understand everyone and what their role is in the squad.
We've not even seen the best from some of their new signings yet, have we? Like Bailey and
Wendy, exactly.
Wendy,
we've it's like we just started seeing Bailey like starting his career in the Premier League, and then he got that injury, and hopefully I'm not too sure how long he's out for. But yeah, no, I was so impressed with their transfer market, especially like they kind of went with the idea of like, we're not going to be able to replace Jack Grealish by signing one player, so let's kind of share the load and get a few players who can all contribute in that.
Yeah, and I wonder if the minutes will follow suit. Like these players will play like at this roughly the same amount of minutes each. Because like, question to you two then, like when these players return, when Buendia returns, when Leon Bailey presumably plays left wing back or left wing, like then does a very good player miss out?
Traore,
like Target or like
Bertrand Traore, I think could be the big one,
because he was like in and out of the side last season as well, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Who would Buendia come in place of? Like they've got McGinn.
God, he can't replace McGinn.
But McGinn can at least
Douglas
play in
Luiz,
midfield.
and who else midfield? It's the
Nakamba.
youngster.
Ramsey, and
yeah.
he's been great actually, Ramsey.
But I don't know. I think in the attack, like the issue is like you might have to lose one of Watkins or Ings, and I think if they're both fit, I'd definitely play Watkins. But Ings is reliable, and they spent a lot of money on a guy of his age. You've got to get the value out of him now. Like I mean, you could feasibly play him in the hole and play Buendia on one side, Bailey on the other, and Watkins up front, or you could play Ings up front and you can play Watkins on the left, and you could play Buendia as a 10 and Bailey on the right. Like you could do all these different things. Bailey played mostly on the right last season, but obviously has played on the left in the past. How you construct that central midfield is really the question. Like, do you get enough defence out of the guys there? And I think probably you don't in a 4-2-3-1. But then maybe, Cash does play a more reserved role. Like, because Douglas Luiz, not a great defender. Nakamba is a pretty good defender, but is quite limited in other regards. I haven't really looked at Ramsey's numbers. Maybe he's the missing link there. But I don't know. Like, I don't think it's necessarily an issue, because I do think the idea of like best 11 is like gone. Or it should be gone. People still talk about it in the media, but I think we all understand that teams are going to mix and match a lot more over the course of a long season. But if I was just picking like my best 11 based on talent, like I'd be kind of like, right, okay, we have Buendia, Bailey and Watkins in attack, and we work the rest out. But I don't think Douglas Luiz is overshadowed, for example. I actually think he's one of the players who's probably most highly rated in this team. And I think, actually, when I think about Villa, there are very few players who I think are not really rated quite highly. Everyone likes McGinn. Everyone likes Cash. Everyone likes, I don't fucking know, like
Matty Target maybe.
Yeah, Target's fine. Like Target's fine. Mings is fine. Like all of them are pretty good. Like they're all right. Konsa, good.
Yeah, I think the fact that people, I think they're well capable of finishing in the top 10,
despite losing Grealish.
Yeah,
which would be
indicative of that. So maybe we'll say Villa to be concluded, because we might see a good player who started the season well miss out when all these new
Ramsey could potentially be that.
Yeah, new signings are integrated. Moving on to the bottom half of the league, then. I think Brentford are in 9th actually at current, because Arsenal are 10th, aren't they? Brentford, hard to apply this argument to Brentford. Is there anyone? Maybe let's switch it up a little bit for these sides, because it does get increasingly hard the further down the league you get. Is there anyone that surprised you at Brentford with how quickly they've adapted to the Premier League?
Who's the?
I mean, Tony's the obvious answer. There's Mbuemo up
I think
front as well.
Tony. I mean, breaking the record of the Championship. You're always, you're going to be a good striker.
People were hoping it.
Yeah, I think there was always. I think a lot more people regarded him being a success in the Premier League than other strikers. There's probably a lot more questions over Pukki than there probably was Ivan Toney.
Yeah.
When Pukki first came into the Prem, I've been quite impressed with their defence. Actually, who's the? I'm trying to forget his Pinnock. Yeah, who's gone from Dulwich Hamlet to the Premier League and was really good. He was unfortunate to get that injury against Liverpool in the end. Again, I'm not too sure.
Pontus Jansson and Christopher Ayer.
Yeah, to be fair, Jansson I thought could not be a Premier League player. When I watched him for Leeds in the Championship, and I felt like he was way too error-prone and a little bit clumsy on the ball, but has come into the Premier League and looked like fantastic. The whole Brentford squad has come in. I think we all kind of had that belief that they could be a Premier League team, a bit like Leeds when they first came in, and could adapt to the Premier League pretty well based on how they've done their business and how they've conducted their club over the past couple of years.
It was like a ringing endorsement, wasn't it, of Thomas Frank and Brentford, that they got promoted. People didn't know that much about them, and then went, you know what, they might just find a way to be fine because they're smart. They're a smart club.
Yeah, Frank's clearly a great manager.
Yeah.
Frank. I think it's going to be Frank or Potter for like the next
big job,
kind of Tottenham job or Arsenal job or whoever it ends up being. I don't know. Like, I actually think I would say Tony here, like, because I'm not surprised. I wasn't surprised that he was good. but I'm surprised at the way he's been good, because he was a great goal scorer in the Championship, but he hasn't been a great goal scorer for them this season. If you look at his numbers, his XG numbers, his shot numbers are quite bad. But what's been amazing are his creative numbers. Like, they've just gone through the roof. And some of the passes he's pulled off in games, like, or even when they haven't quite come off, like
The pass for Mbuemo
it's just
for that tapping across.
and there was one. It might have been against us actually, where he like chipped the ball into the back post. Like, I mean, he's and his aerial ability up against Premier League centre.
How tall do you think he is?
I know how tall he is. He's like 5'10", isn't he?
Which is
a
Yeah,
fine
but he's
height.
got high hair as well, and he's got a great leap and those things.
His
You know,
leap
like,
is actually
it's like
shoulder.
Michael
Very
Antonio. Michael
impressive,
Antonio,
yeah.
you're like, yeah, Michael Antonio is a big guy, but I don't think he is. I think he's under 6 foot as well.
Yeah. He's smaller than me. I met him.
Right.
I mean, there's been a couple of other players as well, like Sergi Canos. His work
That's a
rate has
really
been
one.
unreal. Rea, the Spanish goalkeeper, like his passing has been incredible. I obviously just watched a game against Liverpool and echo Jurgen Klopp sent us after, where he was just like, "Who is the goalkeeper?" And like, is he a central midfielder?
The save he made as well is quite frankly
Yeah.
ridiculous, where he is running back across and like saves it with the top of his hand instead of it going like, it looks like it's going to go in, but like just about misses
Yeah.
it. He's actually
There's
very
one
impressive
pass where he
goalkeeper.
was being pressed, and I think he was like kind of moving across his box, like facing, I guess, like down towards the bottom of your screen,
yeah.
like towards the right wing, and then he like kind of played almost like a reverse pass, like into the midfield, just like onto the foot of a guy in about 20 yards of space all around him, and I was just like,
Cool.
Edison.
and I was like, God. Like, come on. But Onyeka as well, you know, like Onyeka's landed and has contributed. Like, a lot of us were fans of guys like, you know, De Silva and people, but like Onyeka, you think, okay, he's
Josh
going
De
to come
Silva,
in and
yeah.
like he's going to have to adapt. And Burmo, like, I think he's one of the guys who we were kind of like, yeah, he's ready. He's ready made for this step up. But I think they've been so impressive. I think it's great. Like, I love Brentford being good. It's just another. Also, because they're kind of local to me, like it's quite fun that there's like this exciting team that people around where I live are excited about.
Nice. Yeah, I got like not caught up in Rare's numbers, but I had a quick look at them, and he's completing like 50 passes a game, which you fully expect having watched him play. But then like you look at his history as well, and he came up at Blackburn, only had a couple seasons at Blackburn before he became Brentford's first choice goalkeeper. I'm like, where did you learn to pass like that?
And he's
You
homegrown
came
as well,
up
isn't
at
he?
Blackburn. Yeah, it must have been.
Arsenal tried to buy him like last couple of summers. Like they were really interested in getting him. He's a little bit small for a keeper, which is another reason I want to see him succeed, because I think there is still like this feeling of like, if you're like 6 foot or 6'1", maybe you can't be a top level keeper. But I mean, he's just funny.
Ospina. He's like 5'5", wasn't he?
But
Had no neck.
Ospina
Legend.
can kick the ball over the halfway line. No, I'm not joking. He never did it.
'Cause he has
Ospina
some six
never cleared the halfway line with a goal kick, and his positioning on corners behind his own line.
that-
He's a very rogue. He's a very rogue goalkeeper. He's still playing. He's still playing.
Yeah, Ledge.
Napoli?
For Napoli, who are like potential title winners. Like, they have been unreal.
Let's move on to Arsenal then. And I've just put here Arsenal players sufficiently scrutinised. I don't feel like anyone's underrated. I don't feel like anyone's overrated. They are a team that are put under the microscope an awful lot, aren't they?
I think there are lots of players who are underrated and overrated, but I also think like I can see why it'd be boring to get into it. I think that Arsenal fans especially just go through periods where they just decide they hate players. Like, I mean, Hector
So what's hard to find then is a consistent narrative for who's underrated, who's overrated.
Well, I mean, Bellerin has been underrated for quite a while now. Like, I think there's this idea of just like, because he doesn't fit this role or something, he's therefore a worthless player. Like, that's something that Arsenal fans definitely fall into, and Man United fans do this as well, I think.
Did he get sold or is he on loan?
He's on loan at
he's
Real
on loan.
Betis, who currently as well also playing extremely well. Like, but he's one of those guys who just like he has certain abilities that fit one kind of role and not another. But Arsenal fans hate him. I think there's a lot of homophobia tied up in that though as well. They don't like that he's into fashion. They take the piss out of the fact he's a vegan. Like they call him Hector Ballerina. Don't really get it. So I think that he's one of those guys like Lacazette as well. Like Lacazette, people have just decided is shit. He obviously isn't. Like he's a perfectly good Premier League striker. In fact, he was one of our better players last season. He was certainly better than Aubameyang. But
Glad to see Ramsdale's obviously come in and started pretty well for you guys, especially after all the kind of stuff that happened before he even had signed the dotted line.
Yeah.
With all the him having to like
Still thinking about
comments and everything.
Hector Ballerina, because male ballerinas, pick up.
Oh,
mate.
technically it should be ballerino as well, right? That's what a male ballerina
You've been
is.
correct. Consider
There you
yourself
go.
corrected on that front,
Yeah,
by the
get
by.
the gender right.
I think
Jack is always up and down, to be fair, with Arsenal fans. one moment he's great. I mean, maybe not
I
for
say
George,
probably
not
slightly
for George
overrated
Wright.
by our fans overall.
But then
This
there's
is the
times,
perfect demonstration of the conversation regarding Arsenal players.
because he doesn't help himself because the second it will get a red card every 5 games and then Arsenal fans hate him again. But then for 3 of those games he's brilliant, or then he plays international football and everyone's like, how amazing is Xhaka?
should we maybe go for Hector Bellerin then with underrated by the club? Because I also think that, not very tactfully, like Arteta and Edu found a way of like driving his value down in the public by like emphasising his shortcomings in whatever system they were playing, to the point where it was like, Batiste might be able to get him for like 10 to 15 mil. And I was like, if you do that anymore, Celtic can bid for it. We'll take you.
That's literally what we do every summer. Like every summer, we like manage to tank the value of like one of our players. We sold There was a point where people were like, maybe Guendouzi will go to PSG for £70 million, and now it's just like go on loan with an obligation to buy to Marseille for 10 million. Like, though admittedly everyone hates him there already, but he has been really, really good.
He has been playing very well. So has Saliba. Not from a defensive standpoint, but Saliba looks like an excellent passer.
No, Saliba's been good defensively as well. Saliba, I think, has been fantastic.
In the lowest 5% for tackles and interceptions, but like in the top on FB Ref, I called it FBref before, I've been corrected, but in like the top 3% for every passing metric you can possibly think of.
You know, he's top as well for dribbles by centre-backs in Europe.
Nice.
1.6 dribbles a game. But so is Bellerin, who's the guy who was sold by Dortmund to Marseille too. Like, I don't know, like I don't necessarily mind about that because he basically has never been dribble past in his life, and he was really good defensively in a totally different system last year.
I imagine in Sampaoli's system there's one guy back there who is the aggressor, right? And Saliba's just like, give me the ball, I'll progress it.
But it's a back three as well. You know, it's a back three as well. And you've got basically 2 sitting DMs, and so like I think it's always difficult to work out like how defensive responsibility falls on individuals. Like when you go from back 4 to a back 3, when you have defensive midfielders, when you have defensive fullbacks. Like, but I don't really worry about him as a defender. Like I think Saliba, if Arsenal don't make a success of Saliba, I think that's a serious fuck-up. But he's incredibly young still, like incredibly young as a centre back. Whereas Guendouzi, like maybe he is a dick, but even given how much of a dick he is, like Arsenal really fucked that up. I think.
Yeah. Was at one point worth persevering with. I think that bridge has been burned. But yeah, with Saliba, just go back to his passing. Like, it's not just, you know, sometimes you see the stats and it's like, oh, he's completing 50-60 passes a game. Then that's because they're playing possession-based football. But it's like he's in the top 1% for like defenders who pass into the final third as well. That he's got a special sort of passing skill set, which
massive. Yeah,
which I think, like you said, definitely worth cultivating at Arsenal. Let's move on to Tottenham then. We'll go Bellerin for Arsenal. I've put Lurie down just because I was surprised with his post shot expected goals numbers. Like over the last 4 campaigns, he's kept out more goals than Alisson. You know, judging post shot XG, obviously, like the saves an average goalkeeper would make, like above or below that.
Lurie's really good. However, Lurie is also very
uninspired. Don't get me wrong. This is insipid, mate. Yeah.
But he will like every season there are a couple of blunders he makes, which I think then.
But that's what I'm saying. Do they overshadow what he's actually doing consistently?
Yeah. 100%. Like Lurie is still one of the best goalkeepers in the Premier League. But he is, a narrative victim because he will let in a goal or 2 throughout the season, which Spurs fans, other fans will go, oh, there's Joe Tomlinson loves it as well, where that's why Lurie he's always
an isolated standalone clip.
Exactly. Whereas actually over a course of a season, Lurie is one of the best keepers in the league and continues to do so. I think he's now 32, maybe slightly older. Maybe. And so Spurs probably will have to start thinking about 34, about having to replace him eventually, and that's not going to be an easy job because obviously he's been keeping them, he's been gaining them points throughout his career.
He feels like quite a nostalgic goalkeeper, like unbelievable shot stopper, but one of those guys that is never going to be like what a top coach demands of a goalkeeper like right now.
He's like the generation before the current generation of goalkeepers who can play with their feet and play.
But he always was known as a sweeper keeper, right? He wouldn't come out and distribute, but he would be quick off his line, like to defend, especially in the early days under Poch. But like the thing about Lloris is like he, I don't know. I think that there's a thing that goes on among fans where they think the way to look sophisticated is to say that somebody who's actually pretty good is really. You know, so they'll be like, oh, well, actually, you know, like this guy, he gets his angles wrong all the time, you know, like that kind of stuff. Or like, oh, he's actually got like those guys on Twitter who's like, this man has exactly the same gluteal structure as like Eden Hazard, like that kind of stuff. And so when I hear people saying Lloris is terrible, despite all the evidence to the contrary, it reminds me of when you talk to somebody who like considers themselves a film buff and they just tell you like what a shit actor like Nick Cage is or something. And I think, oh, you're an idiot. Like, you're just one of those people who thinks that the way to look sophisticated is to say, you know, that thing you like, it's actually terrible. People do it with restaurants as well, right?
Going against the grain.
Oh, you know that restaurant you like, it's actually terrible. You're like, you're not going to convince me that the food I enjoyed, I actually secretly didn't enjoy. And I feel the same with Lloris. Like, people will tell you again and again and again, he's rubbish. And all I see when I watch him play is pretty much him bailing out quite a bad Spurs defence. And I think he's been that way for a while. So
yeah.
I just think with Lloris, like, is he world class? No. But is he like one of the superior Premier League goalkeepers? Yes, and he has been for a long time.
And with regards to shot stopping, I don't think since he's been at Tottenham, he's really fallen out of the top 10, 15, obviously, falls down. Like,
he had one really bad season, I think.
Most goalkeepers do, don't they?
Yeah.
To be perfectly frank. So the most underrated at Tottenham is Nick Cage then. All right, I don't want to piss off any Watford fans, but I've gone for a hard pass on Watford. Kuka, good defensive numbers. Dennis working harder than I thought he would. Danny Rose, still a Premier League quality left back.
Yeah.
Who'd have thought it? Leicester and Wolves. We'll do them together. Ooh. I've got Iheanacho, pretty unlucky to have no league starts so far.
Yeah, no, 100%.
And for Wolves, I've gone Ryan Aït-Nouri, who's played for 6 minutes. And I was like, last season, I was like, this kid's a player.
Yeah.
And they got him in a cut price deal from Angers. And yeah, now Marcel's playing left wing back. What do we think to Leicester and Wolves?
I think for Iheanacho, he again has been not the same, obviously, with Ronaldo and Cavani, but Leicester spent a lot of money on bringing in Daka and their attacking and forwards. And so Brendan Rodgers has to kind of play them and try and get the best out of them and see what happens. And even though Iheanacho towards the end of the season was brilliant, I think Brendan Rodgers kind of has his hands tied and needs to try and get the best out of these guys. And I also think like Leicester in general, I think have been a bit unfortunate through the start of this season. I mean, yesterday in the Europa League they were terrible. However, I always just feel like Leicester are unfortunate in some regard, whether it's an injury to a certain player that was brilliant or whether it was something's just not quite working out in another part.
By virtue of having a threadbare squad the last two years, that
like
happens,
Fofana, brilliant. Like, you know, then he became that, you know, the centre back for them. And then he gets injured.
Fofana to Vestergaard, it's been
exactly.
painful.
Like, that always seems what it's like with Leicester. But for Iheanacho, I do think he is just unfortunate, and I think actually, again, it'll probably be halfway through the season. We'll see him come back into the side, and he'll do really well again.
Yeah.
And hopefully, then that kind of keeps him in it.
So like, what we're saying there, was Rodgers just, you know, hyper aware of, oh, Iheanacho was overperforming, I don't think I can get that out of him on a consistent basis, and I do out of Dakar? Do we think that's like justified at this point? Like, Iheanacho had his kind of moment in the sun, maybe isn't of the quality of the new signings or signing, because obviously Samare's a midfielder. Yeah, do you think it's been unfortunate or what?
Yeah, I think so. I don't think Brendan Rodgers is that aware. Like, because even taking into account overperformance last season, Iheanacho deserved to be in the starting 11. Like, he was still sensational. I don't know. I think Ricardo Pereira is a little bit underrated overall, not by Leicester fans, but I think Ricardo Pereira is one of the best fullbacks in the league, and people don't really talk about that because he does get injured a lot. I actually don't agree that Leicester are unlucky. They've had some bad injuries, but they got kind of lucky with their metrics and their finishing last season, which balanced that out overall. I think Schmeichel is pretty underrated. I think Schmeichel, again, is one of the best keepers in the Premier League. Not last year, but the year before, he had an unbelievable
Chelsea
season.
tried to sign him.
He's
as well.
a top-class goalkeeper. Again, a conventional goalkeeper. But really, really good, and has been great for them all along. And if he'd been at a bigger side, maybe his whole career, he probably wouldn't have been displaced his whole career, and people would probably regard him the way they should, as like one of the best keepers of the last 7-8 years.
Deserves to be playing Champions League football.
Yeah, but I think that's true of a lot of Leicester's players, right?
Yeah.
I think I was watching maybe Sky BT the other day, and they actually had like it was a genuine point raised, like, how does his career stack up to his dad's? Like, is he as good as his dad at this point? And I thought the fact that he's been able to even initiate that conversation, like, is such a, like, you got to tip your cap to his career. Like, how many families or like sons live up to their dad's reputation? It's super rare.
It's getting a bit more common now, right?
And he's done it. Lilian
Who you
Thuram.
thinking of?
Well, Enrico Chiesa and Federico Chiesa. The Thurams.
Is it Kefren, his other son as well? They've got
Marcus
Kefren.
now you've got Maldini's kid, and of course
Yeah,
Maldini.
Scored on his debut.
And of course Maldini himself was the son of a former Milan
Yeah.
captain too. Like, I mean, like it seems like it's getting Haaland as well has already surpassed that.
So maybe it's
there
just
are a
quite
few of
nice.
these guys around.
It's
yeah.
nice when they don't have to feel that pressure anymore of like living up to a parent.
It's unusual because they play in the same position,
Yes.
right? And because they're like both
That as
playing in the
well.
Premier League.
Yes.
But I feel like you're onto a loser there, just because like the way Man United fans think. It's kind of a little bit like if you were a centre back in the 90s, you were expected to do so much less than centre backs are now, and as a result, people talk about centre backs back then. They're like, how can you possibly compare? I don't know, like
Tony Adams.
Yeah, like Van Dijk to Tony Adams, and you're like, because he's better than him. Because he's just better.
This
than
is the
him
most athletic footballers have ever been.
Yeah, he's literally better.
But then you've got
than
Roy
him.
Keane, who's just like, I think Schmeichel was overrated to counterbalance.
But he's always
United
had
fans.
an issue with his dad as well, hasn't
No,
he?
he thinks Peter Schmeichel's overrated. He's never said anything about Casper.
Oh.
Like, people put Peter on a pedestal, then Roy's like, he's overrated.
But Roy Keane hates everyone he played with except
Yeah.
for Dennis Irwin.
And Gary Neville.
Like, he loves Dennis Irwin more than anything. as well.
Dennis
He's just
Irwin
like-
was class, though.
Yeah, he was.
Okay, so for Crystal Palace, Southampton, Newcastle, let's tick these off because I didn't have
No one.
any great answers. Like,
Do quick ones.
yeah,
on these.
quick one. If you're Conor Gallagher, do you stick around at Palace, or do you hope for a better move at the end of the season?
He could be playing at well,
Depends where they
Palace,
are.
Yeah, because Palace's potential is high.
Super hard to
yeah,
answer this question.
Yeah, very hard. Look, I hope. I wish the best for him. But
Yeah.
I just don't think he's ever going to make it into that Chelsea side.
Yeah, that's why I ask. And maybe if they like approach you in January, can we sign him on a permanent or whatever? Have you got an obligation to buy or an
I
option to buy?
don't know. I don't
See
think
where
so.
you are
I
in
think
the
it's
league.
normal. I think he'll have a season there and then see what Palace do.
Yeah.
If they finish higher than expected, he might be willing to go to them. If not, like he could be playing for a top half Premier League side easy.
Maybe, but like,
Do you not think?
Yeah, maybe. Like,
Oh.
but at the same time, like, it depends where Palace are, and I do think that like, if the choice was between like another sort of mid-table Premier League side or staying there, unless it was like Brentford or something where you really forced into the project, I think I'm going to be playing alongside Zaha.
Oh, the future of Palace is
Eze,
interesting.
and behind Odson Edouard,
Yeah.
like. That's a pretty good position to be in. It's
Yeah.
like one of those creative,
Elite
like tweener
Elite,
players.
Yeah. It's not difficult to buy into Palace being good in 2 or 3 years'
And
time.
Vieira
at the moment,
actually
right?
looks alright.
Do you know what? Every time I've watched Conor Gallagher, I mean, I've watched Palace 3 times this season. I think he's been the best around the pitch every time.
Yeah.
Southampton couldn't really find anyone. Like Armando Broja's not got many starts, but did we expect
He
that?
was always a third choice striker.
Che Adams is a good player.
He was always a third choice. Like they had Armstrong and had Adams and getting Broja on loan. Like I think he went there with the expectation of not being. Maybe he can battle himself into a starting position as the season goes on. But right now, I think
Not
he's-
straight away, yeah.
not straight away.
You think Che Adams is underrated?
I think he was overshadowed by Ings previously, so I think this is his season to step out of that. Like I really like Che Adams. I think he's a really interesting player. He's got an unusual skill set. He's suffered with some bad finishing so far in his career, but I don't see any particular reason that should continue. And this allows him to play more of a hybrid role now since they brought in Armstrong, rather than being like playing off the back line trying to just finish. I really like him actually, like, which is quite rare in that Southampton squad, which I think
it
is
was like me
horrible.
liking a player.
Yeah, well, a little,
Liking a
a little
player.
bit as well. Like, but who knows? You know, maybe they end up playing a different way because I know that Broja is like the fastest man on earth.
He's ridiculously rapid.
I know what you mean with Che Adams. It's like it's rare you see someone who's underperforming, but then you also think you could probably play anywhere along that front three. You've got quite like a varied skill set. You're super hard to play against because he's just like barrel chested, but also quick, isn't he? I like him as well. Newcastle.
No one.
Yeah, scrap all that. Quick question to you,
Maximin.
Zach.
Say Maximin.
Yeah, Saint Maximin has been linked with Chelsea and Liverpool. Obviously, he was linked with a move to Everton for £60 million in the summer, which is ludicrous because they have no money to spend, or financial fair play rules that out.
He'd have been sick.
But do any of you
would
see him
we-
at a top club?
Maybe one day. I mean, I think he's so heavily relied upon at Newcastle. And I don't quite know whether he would be able to deal with, say, coming up to a top 6 team where so much more, even though he has pressure here, but he's expected to do probably even more at a club like Chelsea. In terms of Chelsea's, as I said earlier, they've got wingers left, right, and centre. Callum Hudson-Odoi can't even play, and so he's going to have to do so much more than what is maybe expected of him at Newcastle at a bigger club. Not to say he couldn't do it. I just think.
Be mental.
It would be mental. I mean, it'd be fun. It would be fun.
Yeah.
It would be great fun to see him kind of play for one of those teams. And I hope he does maybe one day.
You know,
I don't know about yet.
if like Liverpool offloaded like Origi, I'm thinking like someone else, like
maybe plays like a Shaqiri role.
Yeah, and he could be that. Like if he was brought into the squad on like a rotational basis, he could be a real weapon for them. Like with a Mane being like 31, 32, with maybe if they sold Firmino, they could use that money on him. But it'd be a fun rather than a logical signing at this point.
Yes, I think if a team was to do it, they're just going. It feels awesome. Maybe not to the level. Maybe a little bit more sensible. But like if a team went and got Adama Traore.
Yeah, but I mean,
just let him run it.
I love both of them.
I know, yeah. So maximum running at 0.6 non-penalty goals per night at the moment.
It's not
for Newcastle. That's like 1.5 for anyone else.
I think he gets. I think he's one of those players who's not necessarily better for anybody else. But more importantly, I think he's less entertaining for anybody else. Like to me, Sam Maximan is one of those guys who. He's like a water player in that like he just is going to like take the shape of like whatever hole there is in your attack. So if he were to move clubs, I'd want him to go to a team where they just have like a big hole that no one knows what to do with. So you can imagine. So for instance, if he went to like City and he was being given a really specific tactical role, after 2 games we'd be like ruined. They've ruined him. He's boring now. like Pep's like rubbed his little bald head all over him and like ruined him. Whereas if he went to like Spurs or Arsenal, where you kind of feel like there is a bit of a hole there on the wing, and Sam Maximan can basically do what he wants. That's what I want. I want a guy. I want Sam Maximan to play for a better team, so he has more of the ball and better players to play around. But I still want his job to be: we give you the ball. And you do something.
Yeah, you do what you want.
That's absolutely what I want from him.
Steve Bruce is definitely giving him the run of the roost, isn't he?
He owns Newcastle now.
Yeah, so no one we underrate or is being underused at Newcastle. I think that's pretty much the same with our bottom 3 clubs, and I'm not just dismissing them because Norwich and Burnley aren't entertaining to talk about, but like Leeds, Burnley, Norwich. Is there anyone we're not putting a sufficient amount of shine on at those clubs? Like I've said, is it time for Dwight McNeil to move on in the notes? Maybe the same with Todd.
I feel like we talk about McNeil.
Todd Cantwell.
I feel like we talk about McNeil quite a bit, and we always say like he is their best creative asset, and maybe can do a better club. But I just don't know whether it's ever going to happen. Like, realistically, is a club going to go and look for a position in that wing I think he's played a little bit central at times this season. And target McNeil as that guy to come in and replace. Yeah,
a bit of a traditional winger. I guess that's how he's been used at Burnley. Maybe he can play in different roles. He's still young. He's clearly a smart guy. Like the fact you can get +5 assists in that Burnley side deserves great credit. Maybe
he's got like Conte left wing back all over.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Maybe he's rumoured to go Juve as well.
I can see him do that.
Like an Everton sort of player. Like that's the sort of step up I want him to make.
He is more talented than Townsend and Gray for sure. So, like, you could imagine that if, like, at the end of the season, they're like, well, Townsend, he's not a young man. Like, we can get in McNeil to do that. That's probly an upgrade. And having him aim at Richarlison and Calvert-Lewin is certainly an upgrade.
He needs someone to aim for as well. He's so used to playing, like, long ball football and crossing it in.
But he's going to love it, man. He's going to, like, when he comes out of it, it's going to be like, in The Simpsons, where all the kids are going outside to, like, play in the sun. And they're like, he's going to be like that. He's not going to believe it. He's going to be like, someone passed me the ball.
Freedom!
Somebody passed me the ball, like, on the ground from 10 yards away, as opposed to like
just sits there like shocked.
Yeah, like the keeper.
Oh my god, what's happening?
Like, I haven't received a pass from anyone but a keeper or a throw-in in like 4 years. But like, I don't know, like, I think we give sufficient praise to McNeil. I mean, what was the other team? There was somebody. Leeds. I think Leeds. Basically, everyone at Leeds could do with a little bit more attention. I think there are loads of guys at Leeds who are just like Rafinha. Obviously, we talk about, but Rodrigo was great last season. I think Harrison is great. Even like guys they got rid of. Like, didn't Alioski go? Like,
yeah, they didn't give him a new contract.
I thought he was pretty good. Like, I whenever I watch, and I love. The
Luke
guy
Ayling.
whose name I've now forgotten. Yeah, Luke Ayling.
Yeah, you do.
Luke Ayling is sick. Luke Ayling is great. I mean, the only thing that needs to happen is somebody needs to say to all of them, guys, you live in Leeds. Let's get rid of these little man bun situations, right? Okay, because like we're not actually Vikings. Like, you live in Leeds. So I think that needs to be knocked on the head. But
but surely talking about
quality team.
Jack Harrison's man bun there, because Luke Ayling's mane is glorious, and I will not have a bad word said against it.
No.
What, you don't like the guitar celebration?
And there we have it.
I like all of them.
It's like the darkness, mate.
It's hilarious that like Leeds used to be, even when Leeds was sick in the early 2000s, when actually I really used to enjoy watching Leeds, they were a bunch of arseholes. Like they had a bunch of terrible guys. Like Viduka was such a horrible guy, and like even Kuehl was a bit dodgy. Like Smith certainly was a horrible man. Like and horrible to play against. now, all
I
those
assume that's what you meant, but now I think you meant personally. Yeah.
I think personally.
Oh, okay.
I think personally, apart from Radaby, but like he was a great guy. But like now, I look at them and I think, how have Leeds become like one of the most likable clubs in the Premier League?
Bielsa.
They are a little bit easy to play against if you're a top side, but they are so fun. So I don't know, man. I want Leeds to stay in the league forever.
Yeah, and there's definitely more to come from them. Like Dan James is a smart signing. Like
God, Dan James.
Yeah,
is he a smart signing at the money?
Well,
He's a good player.
90% of their play goes out wide, and they just love fast blokes.
Run,
so I feel like he's a good sign.
Bielsa's a good manager for him, certainly.
Yeah,
but like
a better manager than Poch.
but he was one of those
Not
things
Poch,
where they were like. They were like James to Leeds, and you were like, yeah, okay. Like they tried to do that before. How much was it? And then it's like nearly 30 million quid, and you're like, okay,
Yeah.
like 30 million.
They got
quid?
to the window having not really spent a lot, didn't they?
You ship out Dan James, and you use the money to bring in Raphael Varane. It's not bad.
I think Leeds probably know they're going to get like 60, 70 for Rafinha, even if he carries on like just as is. Not even if he goes like supernova or whatever.
Or just at the end of the season, like Dan James is just going to break the 100 meters world record, like playing on the wing for Leeds this season.
He'll
like,
just disappear. He'll like evaporate.
yeah,
flash.
just molecules will go through
goes
it.
to a multi-
He'll turn up at Bradford Stadium.
Yeah, it'll be like what's it, Marvel, when he's like, it's just Dan James just disappearing into Ellen Road. Right. So in conclusion, then the players we've gone for who deserve a little bit better. So I've got down here Cavani, Sterling, Iheanacho. Maybe more pay should be viewed as more of a Premier League striker than he is. Ben Chilwell. Only I went for 8 Nori, really. Was there anyone else that I've totally missed?
You said Cantwell. I think maybe Max Aarons.
Max Aarons.
Pedence.
Pedence, love the little elf.
Pedence is a shout.
People talk about Neto, people talk about Jimenez, but Pedence is great.
Yeah, he's class. Right, I don't think we've got time for quick fire questions. We've been...
We're over an hour.
Yeah, this has felt like a podcast. I've actually thoroughly enjoyed this chat. So there's just like 6 questions down here that we've got to bin off. And we do have some top comments from top 10s that we should include because we've been promising that for some time now. So thank you to ByPXLAR the God for his comment on 10 players proving FD wrong. I'll just put it on the screen now. I'm not reading it out. 10 moves that ruined a wonder kid. Heldet Meg got the top comment on that. 105 likes. Good work. And 10 most passionate fan bases. I got accused of writing that because Celtic were number 1, but that is indeed Henry Hill behind the camera right now. So it wasn't me. Just like to clear that up right now. Have we got anything to plug?
I like that we were like, those were the best comments, but we don't know what they said. Like,
They'll be on screen for the magic of editing.
Right,
mate.
fair enough. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not.
I'll put them on screen.
One of them was like 3-4 lines. I'm not
This
going
is long
for
enough.
that.
Yeah, agreed. Fair enough.
I'm not going for that. So what have we got?
Check out Snapchat, type Football Daily into the search bar, and you can get daily content from us about all the stories that are happening in football.
Am I going to plug something?
What are you doing?
The podcast.
No, I wasn't on the pod this week.
I was.
Yeah, what was the pod about?
We spoke about.
Why is it so hard to remember?
The most we spoke about the managers who are most likely to get sacked by the bookies at the moment and whether they actually will do. Check it out. It was really
Why?
fun. Me, Henry, and Joe. It was good.
Why did the word 7 come out of your mouth?
Because it was the
7 favourites for the sacking, right?
Yeah. Did I not say
You
that?
just went 7.
Classic
Monica
round
and friends.
number.
Yeah. Anyway, bye.
Love you.